Those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. George Santayana said that.
Powerful quote.
It really is. And it feels particularly relevant when you look at Asian geopolitics today, doesn't it?
Absolutely. So intricate.
Yeah, because what looks like, pretty straightforward news item, Japan maybe transferring some naval ships, it actually opens up this whole deep dive, doesn't it? Layers of history, strategy, regional tensions.
Exactly. And that's what we're doing today. We're dissecting Japan's thinking about sending these secondhand naval vessels to the Philippines.
And China's reaction, which has been, well, intense.
Intense is the word. Very historically charged. So our mission here for this deep dive is to get beyond just the headlines. We want to help you understand not just what's happening, but why.
Right. The history behind it, the echoes, what it all means for security in the region.
Precisely. And this is really crucial stuff if you want to stay informed. Especially perhaps if you're preparing for competitive exams like the UPSC mains.
Yes. International relations, security, current events. This ticks all those boxes.
It really does. But honestly, even if you're just curious about what's shaping our world, this should help you, connect some important dots.
Okay, so let's dive right in then. The core issue. Japan is considering transferring some of its maritime self-defense force ships.
The JMSDF, yeah. Specifically the Abukuma-class destroyer escorts, sending them to the Philippines.
And this isn't just routine, is it? It's actually Japan's first naval vessel transfer like this in decades. That feels significant.
It's very significant. The Philippines Navy has confirmed they're in exploratory discussions. They're even getting ready for a joint visual inspection.
Okay.
Japan's defense ministry invited them. So yeah, it's still preliminary early stages.
Yeah.
But there's definite momentum here.
And the motivation seems pretty clear on the surface. It's aimed at, deterring China, right?
That seems to be the primary driver, yes.
But I wonder, how effective can secondhand ships really be against China's Navy, which is, let's face it, huge and modernizing rapidly? Is this more symbolic, or does it add real capability?
That's a really good question, and it gets to the heart of it. You have to look at the context.
The South China Sea.
Exactly. China claims almost all of it, which overlaps with claims from the Philippines, Vietnam, others.
And we hear constantly about the Chinese Coast Guard, the CCG.
Mm-hmm. Acting aggressively, especially against Philippine vessels in those disputed waters. It happens all the time.
So for the Philippines, even older ships.
Even older ships represent a step up. A crucial step, maybe, in just being able to patrol their own waters, to show presence, to push back a bit against a much, much larger neighbor. It's about presence and showing resolve, perhaps as much as pure capability.
Okay, that makes sense. So given all that, China's reaction, maybe not surprising, they're unhappy, but the tone seems particularly sharp. They're calling it fierce opposition.
Fierce opposition, yes. The Chinese Defense Ministry spokesperson, Jiang Bin, was very direct.
What did he say?
He urged Japan to, and I quote, deeply reflect on and learn from history and exercise caution in its words and deeds in the military and security fields.
Wow. It's quite pointed, using the history angle directly.
Very pointed. And then you have the Chinese state media, the Global Times, really doubling down on that.
How so?
They drew these really explicit parallels between what Japan's doing now, trying to export defense equipment, and its actions back in the World War era.
Seriously? That's not subtle at all. That's a direct accusation linking this to past aggression.
Absolutely. The Global Times piece said, during World War II, Japanese militarism committed aggression and colonial rule against neighboring countries, including China and the Philippines, and occupied islands in the South China Sea, bearing grave historical responsibility.
Okay.
And it didn't stop there. It accused Japan of sort of breaching its pacifist constitution and forming small cliques, their words, to stir up trouble in the region.
So it's not just about this specific ship transfer. They're framing it as part of a pattern linked to Japan's history.
Exactly. It taps right into this deep-seated historical grievance narrative in China. It's very potent emotionally and politically.
And the timing. You mentioned China's getting ready for a big anniversary next year, right? September 2025.
That's right. The 80th anniversary of the victory in what they call the Chinese People's War of Resistance against Japanese aggression and the World Anti-Fascist War.
So highlighting these historical narratives is definitely on their agenda.
It fits perfectly. And then there's another layer. Some Chinese experts are saying the U.S. is behind this.
Ah, the U.S. angle.
Yeah, accusing Washington of pushing Tokyo and Manila closer together for defense cooperation.
As part of the Indo-Pacific strategy.
Exactly. to contain China, as they see it.
Hmm.
One expert, Zhang Junxia, even suggested Japan is doing this partly to distract from pressure China is putting on them over the Senkaku Islands.
The disputed islands between Japan and China.
Right, saying Japan wants to shift focus by arming the Philippines. So, you see, it gets woven into this much larger, complex, strategic game.
It certainly does. Okay, let's flip this around. What's Japan's side of the story? They argue their more, let's say, assertive defense posture isn't offensive, but necessary, right?
That's their narrative. They say they're facing persistent security threats from China, yes, but also Russia and North Korea. So they need a more robust defense.
And how does this potential ship transfer fit into their policies? Because Japan has historically had very strict rules about exporting arms, hasn't it?
It has. The pacifist constitution really limited that for decades. But things changed in 2014.
How so?
They brought in these 3 principles on transfer of defense equipment and technology. Basically, it loosened the rules.
Okay.
It allows exporting defensive equipment, but under strict conditions. Like, it has to help global peace, serve Japan's interests, and the receiving country needs strong controls. It's a careful balancing act.
So these Abukuma destroyers, how are they getting around the rules or fitting within them? You mentioned something about a joint development project.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That seems to be the key. By framing it as a joint development project, they can include upgrades to the equipment on the ships.
Ah, so it's not just selling old kit.
Right. It allows them to transfer the vessels while technically complying with their export principles. It's quite an innovative, maybe you could say clever, way to provide military assistance.
Okay, let's get specific about these ships. Abukuma-class destroyer escorts. What are they actually like? What can they do?
Well, they're about 2,000 tons, 109 meters long, so not huge, but respectable.
And armament.
They've got a 20-millimeter close-in weapon system, like a Gatling gun for last-ditch defense, a 76-millimeter main cannon, anti-submarine rockets, anti-ship missiles, torpedo tubes, and sonar systems.
So a mix of capabilities. Anti-surface, anti-submarine.
Yes. And interestingly, they were among the first Japanese ships to incorporate some stealth features, slanted holes to reduce the radar signature.
Even back then. They've been in service a while, haven't they?
Over 30 years, yeah. They're actually set to be decommissioned by 2027. Japan's replacing them with the newer Mogami-class frigates.
So secondhand, definitely. But for the Philippines, you're saying this is still a big deal.
Oh, absolutely. It's not just an upgrade. It could be a fundamental shift in their naval capability, especially in the South China Sea context. It gives them tools they just haven't had before to, at least try to contest China's presence.
So better patrolling, better protection of their waters.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned anti-submarine capabilities. That sounds like a major boost.
A huge boost. And think about the broader picture for the Philippines. This is a relatively cost-effective way to modernize.
Compared to buying brand new ships.
Exactly. Their Navy has relied on some very old, almost archaic vessels for a long time. This helps bridge a pretty big capability gap with China.
And the upgrades you mentioned.
Yeah, the transfer would likely include upgrades to equipment, maybe communication systems. That would also help them work better with Japan, foster interoperability.
And is the Philippines used to operating secondhand gear? Or Japanese equipment?
They do have experience. They got some Pohang-class vessels from South Korea, which were also secondhand. And they already use some Japanese military kit air surveillance radars, patrol vessels. So it's not entirely new territory for them.
How long could these ships realistically last?
Experts seem to think maybe 10, possibly 20 years if they get good maintenance and upgrades.
But there are costs involved there, right? Maintenance, spare parts.
For sure. That's a key consideration. Assessing those long-term costs, ensuring spare parts are available, maybe needing system upgrades down the line, plus extensive crew training. They might need help from industry partners for that.
Okay. And zooming out again, this specific deal, it feels like part of a bigger trend for Japan, doesn't it? You mentioned the Mogami-class frigates. Japan's trying to sell those to Australia, too.
That's right. They're actively marketing the Mogamis. So, yeah, it does look like Japan is seriously positioning itself to be a more significant arms exporter, particularly within the Indo-Pacific region.
It really feels like all these different threads are coming together here.
They are. If you connect it all up, the history, the shifting defense policies, the current tensions, the specific hardware, it really highlights this incredibly complex interplay in one of the most strategically vital maritime regions on the planet.
A microcosm, really.
A perfect microcosm of these larger global strategic shifts. where even transferring, aging but capable assets can send powerful ripples.
And this is why understanding this stuff is so important, isn't it? For anyone trying to make sense of global affairs. As you said, it gives you that crucial lens
Hmm.
to see beyond the headlines, to grasp the underlying forces. Vital for those UPSC exams, sure, but also just for being an informed citizen, right?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And it leaves us with some big questions to ponder, doesn't it?
Like what?
Well, how will this transfer, even of older ships, actually affect the delicate power balance in the Indo-Pacific? What does it really signal about where defense cooperation is heading in this increasingly tense region?
Good questions. So just to recap this deep dive, we've looked at the specifics of this potential Japan-Philippines naval transfer, the Abukuma ships themselves,
We've unpacked China's really strong, historically rooted objections.
and Japan's own evolving defense posture and how this fits in. It's clear this isn't just a small transaction.
Yeah.
It really reflects these much larger shifts happening globally.
It does. And it makes you think, doesn't it, how much the ghosts of history still shape today's military and strategic choices.
Yeah. And whether these kinds of deals, these joint development projects actually help ease tensions or if they just, rearrange the pieces on the same old chessboard of great power competition.
A complex question with no easy answers.
Definitely a lot for you, our listeners, to think about, especially for all you UPSC aspirants and anyone interested in these critical global dynamics. We really hope this deep dive was valuable.
We do.
If you found it helpful, please do let us know. Like the show, subscribe if you haven't already, and maybe drop a comment. Any questions you still have or your own thoughts on this, we'd love to hear them.
Yeah, your engagement really helps us keep these conversations going.